here's Brian T. Smith and Lovie about what went on Sunday afternoon.
Lovie, you mentioned the fans deserve better. I mean, I look at the stands; they're mostly empty. You guys were booed multiple times. This has been happening all year.
No. Let me stop you. It hasn't been happening all year. You can say. Well, I'm talking about the fans booing us. All right.
You guys have been booed.
Yeah, we've been booed. Yes, and every time something is bad, fans are going to boo, and they have a right to do that. What is your question?
I was going to ask a question.
What is it?
How does this get better? How do you improve this?
By putting a better product on the football field.
Why didn't that happen today?
Because I didn't think I should do it today.
Why were you guys not better today?
I'm not going to tell you that, all right? I mean, what do you expect me to say right now? We just got beat. Now, if there was something that we should have done right away, we would have done that right away. Where we are with our football team, we're searching for answers is what we're doing. And we'll keep working on different combinations.
Right, we come in, and every week you're kind of telling us the same thing. You haven't made any changes. Why are you doing the same thing if you get the same result?
Because sometimes change for what? Just change to change? I think leave that up to us, all right? Right now we don't think we're in that position, all right?
So...
You have any problem with that discuss with
I don't have
first on Brian T.
have
Smith.
one problem with Brian T. Smith.
Okay, I don't either. What you saw there, this is really interesting. What you saw is a breakdown in the facade of coach giving coach speak. Lovie, it crumbled down, and Lovie basically said, I'm not going to tell you. Yeah. Lovie was basically broke down any kind of coach speak and started saying, well, we just need to put a better product out there. He started with that, and then he became, I'm not going to tell you, this is it. And he became defensive. And what you end up finding out is that what Lovie's doing, and this is not just Lovie, this is most coaches, they don't really have a great deal of respect for people who criticize them. And I'm not saying coaches are necessarily right on this, but they don't have a great deal of with fans and media who are critical of them. They think you don't know the sport, you don't know what's going on. That's also not. I don't think that's the right tact.
It's also
either.
Not true. Secondly,
but you could hear it in Lovie's voice, though.
No,
what I'm saying,
you could hear the frustration, and part of the frustration is, I think, is that the Davis Mills experiment, he can't get away from it, and that's probably an edict from on high that Davis Mills is going to continue. And when he said, "Why didn't you make any changes to that?" Because
I didn't want to. I didn't feel like.
I didn't.
That was a weird answer.
Just make change to make change. Yes, you should make change to make change because you're showing your football team that you're actually trying to do something, as opposed to
or you hold people
just
accountable.
An experiment for next year or the year after or the year after. Let's face it. He just admitted in that little tete-a-tete that they are just biding their time, trying to figure out for the future. It's not about today. Mm-mm. And while he didn't admit that they're tanking and they're trying to lose, he did admit that they're not trying to win. That they're trying to find out who can play, if Davis Mills can play. That's what he's trying to find out. And I think the frustration with Brian T. and all of us is we've already found that out. We already know this. At best, Davis Mills is a backup in this league, and maybe a low-end starter if you have to have him over any kind of a period. Davis Mills he's only in his second year. I get it, and he may come around, but he's not there now. Look at the New York Jets. Just last week, they beat the Bills. This week, everybody wants Zach Wilson off the field.
Well, part of that is because of how he handled the postgame.
Well, not only that. Not only just the postgame.
Half of it was because of how bad he was, and frankly, he's been bad for a lot of years.
Not only how he handled the postgame,
but that's what's going to get him demoted.
How entitled he is.
Yeah.
And
well, it's his personality. He doesn't have leadership traits. He doesn't have leadership qualities.
Doesn't have any leadership
He's
qualities.
Mormon Manziel.
That's right. So, but look at the difference. I mean, and Robert Saleh won't commit to him as the starting quarterback. But there's the difference is they are trying to win. The Texans are not. They're not trying to win. And
I think they're trying to win.
They're trying to win.
What do you think they can win with?
Under their terms, they're trying to win.
Yeah.
Sure, they're not.
But every team does that. Every team tries to win under their terms.
If you got to make a change of quarterback, you make a change of quarterback.
Well, so I'm not in favor of making change to make change. I don't believe in that. But at some point, when you have one win in 10 games or whatever it is, it's now irrelevant. If you make a change, you make a change. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You keep losing. Like I don't know if Davis Mills is clearly a better option than Kyle Allen because you see him in practice all the. That's fine. And I understand they want to make sure on this young quarterback, and Nick Caserio probably has some input on that. And that I don't really have them. I don't have a problem with them continuing to play Davis Mills. I also wouldn't have a problem with them saying, you know what, this isn't good enough. Let's shake things up, hold people accountable, and let people in the locker room know that our culture moving forward is we need you to perform. You can't tell me that the performance is never tied to effort. Like, really, on tape, you always see great effort? That can't be the case.
And I think that is more important. I really think that's more important than now continuing this with Davis Mills just to find, because I think, and everybody in that locker room, we've already found out. We have already found out. The kid was okay last year. He's not this year. He's regressed. He's not the answer. We're going to have to draft the quarterback. But let's try to win.
But once again, this is not just.
Let's prove that we actually care about winning.
This is a total fan and media thing to do. Is to try to what you choose. You try to reduce it and boil it down to one thing, and it makes you feel better if you get rid of that one thing. This is not a Davis Mills alone issue.
No.
This is a much
bigger,
large. Davis is just one easy to point to symptom of an issue, and that can't be changed. Not really. Like, you're not going to really get better until you get a different guy.
So yesterday
on the roster,
Lovie came out, and maybe something is going to change, because here's what he talked about in his press conference yesterday.
When as I said, the players come in tomorrow. So have I watched the video a few different times? Yeah, and made some decisions on how we're going to go forward. But you can probably understand if, like all changes and anything that we do from week to week, you kind of talk to the players first before we talk to you. So we're not pleased with where we are. And do we need to do some things differently? Yes, and we will.
Does that mean, okay, so if we're all thinking that Kyle Allen is going to be the answer, now, can he give them a little spark? He has some more experience. Maybe he'll make some throws that Davis Mills didn't make. I don't know how he's going to help Kenyon Green.
What's worse? Yeah, and that's the problem. Is Kenyon Green, I think, has a chance to be a really good player. He's got to continue to tighten up technique. That doesn't happen, and frankly, it's hard to happen. If your issues are muscle memory, it has to happen in the offseason. Yeah. So it's no matter who your quarterback is, you're going to keep having these same issues.
Right. So is Kyle Allen the answer?
Or maybe you sit Kenyon Green down.
But again, I think that you send a message to your team that says it's not okay. And, oh, by the way, we had a plan. Okay, that plan we're changing, because we are not going to sit here and be a loser organization like we have been. We're at least going to try. And because if you keep on running Davis Mills out there and having the kind of games that he has had, you're just saying it's okay to lose. And I think it's more important for the young guys to find out, no. Even Davis Mills, who were, you know what? He was the third round. That's the draft choice of the general manager here, his first ever pick. So they want to see him. No. It's not good enough. Even if it is Nick Caserio's experiment, his little lab experiment, that's got to stop. It's got to stop. And I don't think Kyle Allen is going to make any difference. Kyle Allen can't catch it and block and run and do all the things that this team needs. He can't. He can't play defense. He can't do all the things that this team needs. And by the way, Kyle Allen he's Davis Mills 2.0.
I haven't heard Stephen A. Smith. I want to hear what Stephen A. Smith, what his angle was on this.
After the two, here's Stephen A. Smith.
I know what his angle. I'm going to predict his angle, because Stephen A. Smith is a guy who's been in a position of being a writer when he was in Philadelphia. He covered teams. I don't think he has a problem with asking tougher questions. My guess is that he is on the side of Brian T. Smith on this one.
You would be wrong. Here is Stephen A. Smith talking about the Lovie Smith incident. Here's Stephen A. There's three Smiths here: Brian T., Lovie, and Stephen A. And here's Stephen A.
I thought the reporter could have handled it better. You're there to ask questions and to get answers, as opposed to confronting a coach or what have you. Now, sometimes coaches deserve to be confronted. And what I mean by that is if you're asking questions and that's what you're doing, and you're giving a coach an opportunity to answer those questions, that's fine. But when you come at him like your answers are unacceptable, well, who are you to say that? Well, you give us these answers every week. Well, that's what he chooses to do. Now, granted, they're 1-8-1. They're not the most impressive team in the world. You had an abundance of people who didn't believe that Lovie Smith deserved the job, and he's probably one of those people, which is his right to feel as a reporter. But you're there to ask the question and to receive an answer, as opposed to engaging in a confrontation with the coach. And a lot of times I see stuff like that, and I ask myself, okay, and I don't know the answer to this question. Did you do that to Bill O'Brien when he was there?
Yes.
Did you do that to other coaches when they were there?
All right,
Would you have done that to
dang
another?
it. I can't believe Stephen O. I feel like he's going to black coach thing. Because I've seen Stephen A. That did you do that to Bill O'Brien? That is a classic. Okay, what about the white coach, Bill O'Brien? Yeah, he did. He hated Brian T. Smith.
Right.
He hated.
Right.
Bill O'Brien hated Brian T. Smith because Brian T. Smith did do that. I give Brian T. Smith credit for that. And Stephen A. did tell you, if a coach won't give you the answer, Stephen, they're literally 1-8. They're 1-8, and Lovie just said, I chose not to. Like, we just need to put a better product on the field. That's the embodiment of an elusive answer.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I can't believe Stephen A. was that.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say, hey, Lovie wasn't answering. Lovie said we just need to put a better product on the field. That's the embodiment of coach speak where nothing has changed.
No, and
I really did think Stephen A. would go back to I didn't think he'd try to play that safe and down the middle. I thought he would try to say, hey, yeah, a coach is giving you the same old standard answers, and you press them.
This wouldn't happen in
He
New
just
York.
said exactly,
Yeah.
or Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He just said if the coach doesn't give you the answers, and then he said, well, you're just there to answer questions and just receive answers. Okay. Keep that same energy when you're on your show then as well.
Right.
I mean,
and talking about how bad a coach is or a player is.
Exactly.
Exactly.